Hello everybody, this is Dr. Novak again. I'm going to show you how I do bulkheads. Bulkheads, if you don't do them right, they're going to leak. I've seen a lot of videos where they take the bulkhead and they basically just put it in the tank and screw it down. This goes where the glass side is. I've done this hundreds of times, and that I don't trust it. I've had them where they leak, and there's nothing worse than having one of these bulkheads start leaking on you. So what I do is, after I got the bulkhead ready, gotta cut the piping. This is going to go inside the tank. This is the drain pipe, going to go like this, okay? So I moved the rubber gasket away, and then I put some silicone down there. Where the rubber gasket is. All right, then I take the rubber gasket and move that down where the silicone is. Now you don't have to bring it all the way down so it squeezes out, because it will squeeze out once you go to tighten this thing up. Next thing I do is I add silicone to this part. Now if you had this bulkhead where people could see it, yeah, then you would clean it up. Because this is in a weir, I'm not going to worry about it, whether it spills out or not. Okay, now this is what it should look like. You have silicone here in the gasket and here. So when this tightens up, that silicone is going to spread out, hold this in place, and it won't leak. What I mean by leaking, it's not going to spring a leak, it's just going to start dripping on you. One drip after another. So now let's go put it in the aquarium, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, I've screwed it on as tight as I can get it with my hand. Okay, but a lot of people say just hand tighten it. Well, you gotta tighten it a little bit more using a wrench. This is a wrench you can buy at any hardware store, and you tighten it up with this wrench, but don't over tighten it. That's what this wrench is made for. It's made for tightening up and untightening, but don't over tighten it. Because if you just do it by hand, you are going to probably come up with a leak down the road. And it may not start squirting water, it's just going to start dripping. And because the gasket in there becomes compressed, and with that water, it stays compressed, and it doesn't have the elasticity as it started out with to push away. That's why you have the silicone. Silicone does have that ability to stick and fill in all the holes, so it will never leak. I've never had a problem if I silicone it. If I don't silicone it, I always seem to have a problem. So let's tighten that puppy up, and that should be good. Okay, it's completely tightened up, but not over tightened. In other words, it's tighter than if I were going to have it on my hand. But the silicone now has squeezed out. And let's take a look. And as you can see how it's squeezed out. So you can't see it very good. Sorry, my lighting's not good here, and I'm going to leave it like that. Now, if this was an aquarium where you would see these inlets and outlets, yeah, you would clean that up. You'd get a rag and hurry up and clean that up and make it look all nice. But being that this is in the weir, never going to see it. I'm leaving it just like that. I'm not going to screw around with it. And that's how you install these bulkhead fittings. Always use silicone on top of and underneath the bulkhead fittings, because you will come out with a leak. Eventually it might, at least for me, it will come out with a leak, and you don't want that. So now these are nice. Let this sit for at least 48 hours, couple days. Just let them sit, let that silicone dry before you start moving them around, and they'll be good to go.
Okay, so now since everything's dried, I give it enough time to dry because I've actually had it where I've been impatient and the silicone hasn't dried, and then when you try to install everything, it will move on you. Once the silicone has dried on the bulkheads, then they will not move on you as you're working on them, trying to do stuff to it. But each bulkhead was already pre-fitted, and as you see, you have the brass there for the 5/8 or 16 millimeter tubing. And when you install brass and you're using plastic or PVC, this is 40 PVC, not the 80, but it's a 40. And when you install it, if you go in there with the brass just dry onto the PVC, you're only going to be able to go so far because it's a pipe fitting, so it's tapered. So what I do is I put some silicone on it, and then I go in there and start tightening it up. Now you'll see it will go further, but once it's kind of stops, stop. Don't try to tighten it up anymore because it is tapered, and when you try to keep tightening it up, you know, just maybe you want to seat it. You think, well, maybe I should seat it all the way up there. Take the brass piece and seat it all the way up in the plastic. Don't do that. What will happen is you may be okay, but down the road, could take a week or two, the plastic, the PVC will actually crack on you and you'll wind up with a leak. Okay, I've done that before, and I know that's what happens. So once you put the silicone on there and you screw it in, okay, once you feel enough resistance, stop. You'll still maybe have some threads showing, but that is okay. Let that dry up on you and you'll be good to go without any leaks. In fact, after I installed everything here, I had 0 leaks. Nothing was even leaking at all. And I hard plumbed it instead of just using soft pipes to hook up to it, only because this cosmetic reason. There was really no big purpose. But it looks pretty good. And as you notice, the left and right pipes, not the center one. The center one is the outlet pipe. Okay, and the left and right pipes are your inlet. And those are the ones that you have a little screen on it that that's really kind of optional whether you want to use that screen, because I'm using a weir, and the weir is going to basically filter out any large things that are going to come into it, and I really don't need the screen that much. Here's everything completely hooked up. The clear line is for the refilling of the tank, you know, the outtake, and the green line will be the inlet. And I use, as you see, these Eheim quick disconnects, which work great. And of course, because I have it on the slide, see how I can slide it all the way out. Suggested to me by a lot of the people on my channel that make it so the lines are long enough. And with this particular pump, the Anoxic pump, it's strong enough to go with those lines. And look at that, real nice, pushing it in and bringing it out, especially for this heavy canister. So I really like that part of it. Now I wanted to show you the outlet on the left and right side of the weir. I changed this to a 45-degree angle, 1/2 inch PVC pipe and just sprayed it black with that fusion paint. And the reason I do this instead of using the duckbill outlets that they give you is because I don't want water to be moving real fast through the aquarium, because I'm going to have angels, or if you have angels or discus. So I went with doing this. I did it in my last SCA aquarium, and it lets the water flow real nice, bounce off the sides of the aquarium glass inside the aquarium, and gives you a little water movement without, you know, moving your fish all around. The angels don't seem to like that harsh water movement. Neither do discus, so that's why I do that. It works out real good. You could it's only hand tightened in there. It's not glued or anything, so all you have to do is move them and pull them out. Then you can pull the whole centerpiece out. Nothing's glued in on that centerpiece. It's just done, you know, through friction tightening as you press the half-inch piping in. Yeah, and there was another thing. I didn't want to use a duckbill because the duckbill is going to restrict the amount of water flowing out of the canister filter. And that's another thing I did not want, was any kind of restriction, or as much as possible, of flow rate from the Awaki pump on the 88 canister to be as fast as possible, but yet not give me that current that you would like use in a, you know, a tank maybe that had Oscars or cichlids, African cichlids or something, or a reef tank. You don't need that water movement. One thing I wanted to do when filling up this aquarium was, as you see, I'm using a plate. Everyone complains that this substrate is messy, clouds the tank. I see YouTube video after video. This is a very old trick, probably from the 60s. I even have books on it from the 60s showing fill up your aquarium by putting a plate underneath it and fill it up that way. Believe it or not, I filled up the tank. It was not cloudy at all. In fact, you can even see the water inside the tank. Look at that. It's not even cloudy. Not even cloudy. It works. It's an old trick hobbyists use to fill up their aquariums by using a plate. It's in all the books. So if you do it this way, look at that. No cloudiness at all. Plus, maybe it helped with me putting a little bit of that gravel on top of it, that very small gravel. But I just wanted to show you that because I haven't seen this done for a long time in any of the newer YouTube videos that are out there. Probably because people have forgotten this is the way we used to fill up aquariums a long time ago. You'd put a plate down there and then let it go on the plate, and it disperses the water evenly and softly, and you won't come up with a big cloudy tank. I don't know why people don't do it anymore, but this is what I did, and as you can see, the tank came out relatively clear without all that murkiness that people have complained about. Because I even saw a YouTube video, in fact, where a guy used fluval substrate and ADA substrate, and he showed how the fluval was a lot dirtier than the ADA. Well, here you see in this aquarium, by using a plate, you can bypass all that dirty grunginess that seems to be associated with filling up the aquarium when you're using these newer substrates that seem to be made out of volcanic material and dirt or whatever they're made out of. These new substrates, they seem to be a little messier than just using stone. So I did want to show you that. So this is what the aquarium looks like right now. A few more plants have been put into it. Not too many rocks, because rocks are very hardscape to me. I like a little softer things like natural woods and things like that, which I will be adding a few other pieces to it, but that's just my preference. Anyhow, the tank is still being broken in, as we all know. It hasn't been really up that much, but it's starting to come together, and little by little I put things together. I don't go out and buy a ton of plants because I like looking around, finding, different venues of plants that I may find something that catches my eye. And I don't have a plethora of plants available to me to do the whole tank at once, just exactly the way it should be. It's just an idea in progress, almost like a painting. You don't do a painting in one day, you may do it in several days. And that's how this is. But anyway, everything's going good. There's no ammonia nitrites or nitrates as of yet. And so, of course it's new. I did put in some bottle of starter bacteria bottle in there. But we all know that's heterotrophic bacteria versus the real bacteria that we want. It's just kind of like a, what can I say? Yeah, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work, those bacteria. But it depends on the brand. I used an API brand, and it seems to be doing okay for right now. I don't really like using those because I did add a lot of stuff from the other aquarium that will have bacteria all over it. We'll see how it comes out. But anyhow, the tank's coming along just fine, and I'll be doing more reviews on the lighting, more on the auto feed. The auto feed's working real good on the aquarium, keeping it filled to the correct height that I want it. So there's zero problem there. Canister filter's working just fine. The pump just lets off a little bit of heat, but it's relatively quiet. I'm surprised, very quiet. And it seems to have quite a lot of strength, the pump does. So it's not losing a lot of its head pressure. Probably because, if you think about when you do a weir and you have that force coming through the intake and you're using gravity versus sucking the water through, you're using gravity to help push. And that's why when you hook up a canister filter to a weir, it immediately will start priming itself, because gravity itself inside that weir with all that water is going to push the water inside the canister and push the air out. So this helps also with the flow rate of your canister to help bring it back up. So let's say, example, if you had an Eheim and it was a lower flow rate, just hooking it up to the normal way of doing it with a intake tube that hangs around the back of the aquarium and a strainer, because you can actually take the strainer off of a canister filter and you'll notice it will actually pump more water than when you put a strainer on. And then if you put a sponge over that, it's going to pump even less water. So if you took the strainer off, you'll actually be pumping more water because resistance. Well, when you use a weir, you don't have that resistance. Water is actually being forced down into the canister just through gravity and weight, and therefore the pump will be a little easier on pumping water out of the canister, and you'll lose very little pressure from head pressure. That's just another thing I want to tell you. That's just the way physics is. But yeah, I've done that with other filters. Just by adding a strainer, you can slow down your filter a little bit more than if it didn't have a strainer on it. So this way you don't have to worry about it, and you'll be getting just about full head pressure of what that particular pump will give out. This one, the Awaki, I think it's 15 feet of head pressure at 475 gallons an hour. Just something to remember, that if you decide in the future, you're going to get one of these aquariums, the benefits of using a weir on your canister filter is that you probably will see a larger output of that canister filter versus if it has to suck in the water instead of the water actually helping it being pushed in. That's something you'll notice. Okay, until next time, this is Dr. Novak. Happy fish keeping.